Hi guys and gals and kittens, and welcome to the Anira Magic Show. So in this video I'm going to show you what's in the package, implying when you buy a professional plan or an enterprise plan, what do you get? And also this video serves as an alternative onboarding training session to help you out, to allow you to do it yourself, so to speak, when actually purchasing a cloudlet from Ainiro. So I'm going to go through a normal standard training session or onboarding session, except I'm going to do it a little bit faster. So now you can see at this point, if you have bought a cloudlet, you've already been given a URL and a username and a password. If you want to change that password, you go to Manage, you go to Users and Roles, and you find your user here, and you just click Change Password, and that allows you to change your existing password. Now, the first thing you typically want to do when you get a cloudlet is that you want to have an AI chatbot wrapping your website. The way you would do that is you click the Create guy here. This is the nav bar. Click Create, and you go to Chatbot Wizard, and you punch in the URL of whatever website you want to crawl. And then you can scrape and crawl 1,000 pages or 5 pages or whatever amount of pages you want to crawl. I'm just going to be crawling 3 pages here. Just start the process such that you can see it. And I want the creation of this particular AI chatbot to go extremely fast such that you can see it. And also this is relevant for partners of us that are reselling AI chatbots, because this is the way you would actually create a demo AI chatbot. So if you're planning on reselling AI chatbot using our cloudlet or your cloudlet as the foundation for creating these AI chatbots, then this is probably where you'd want to go first. And as you can see here, this guy has a lot of different settings. Typically you don't want to change the model. Maybe you want to use O3 Mini, but that depends. It does spend some 3 to 5 additional seconds answering. And now it is done. You can click the demo button here, which opens up a demo. As you can see now, this resembles HubSpot websites, but it's not, because it has an AI chatbot. Why do I need a CRM? And this allows you to create demos that resembles the way your AI chatbot would typically end up looking like once it is embedded on the website you actually scraped. And as you can see here, already at this point now, I asked why do I need a CRM, right? And already you will see that the AI chatbot does its best at selling HubSpot's CRM system. That is because it has been configured automatically by the chatbot wizard to act as a sales executive. Now here you can, select colors and, all that beautiful stuff. You can select some properties, you can change the text title of the window. Pop-up, you can have a pop-up message that's displayed 5 seconds after the page loads and says, hi there, ask me anything, or whatever you want really, etc., etc. And then this is the text box, the buttons text. This is the text box placeholder. This is the positioning of the AI chatbot, bottom right, bottom left. This is the base theme. So if you look at this theme, this is the bubbles theme. If you use the square theme, it doesn't have the transparent background, but it's still fairly intrusive and big and opens up with a backdrop. If you use the modern clear, then that particular theme is much smaller. It's a more classic AI chatbot, etc., etc. Don't ever use Chatbot Legacy. This was the old front-end JavaScript file we created to allow for embedding the AI chatbot onto your website, but it's legacy and it's only there for backwards compatibility reasons. We never use this particular theme ourselves any longer, and we also don't use AI search because we have other means to solve those same problems, which are simply superior. So anyways, so now I'm done. What did the wizard do? Well, first of all, it automatically destroys my AI chatbot after 7 days. Why? Because we want the simplicity of being capable of creating demo AI chatbots that you can send to prospects of yours if you are a white labeling partner. And then after 7 days, unless that particular prospect or lead actually comes back and tells you they actually want to purchase, the AI chatbot is just going to be automatically destroyed. So first of all, how do you turn this particular AI chatbot into a permanent AI chatbot? Well, you go to Manage, you go to Task Manager. Why? Because a scheduled task was automatically created. And as you can see, it's at the bottom here, delete chatbot, www_hubspot_com. If I click edit on this, you will see it basically just deletes my AI chatbot. Now, if I delete this task, then the chatbot is not going to be automatically destroyed after 7 days, meaning it's a permanent AI chatbot. So now let's have a look at what the system actually did, right? Now, when you come to the chatbot wizard and or the machine learning component for the first time, the system is going to ask you for an OpenAI API key. You can go to platform.openai.com, register, and get an OpenAI API key. I need to emphasize, you probably want to deposit at the very least $51 into your OpenAI API account. Why? Because this makes it bumps you to tier 2 after a week. On tier 2, you get less capping, you get much more questions per minute, etc., etc. You get access to the Ultra Mini model, etc., etc. However, what the system did is only appreciated if you click on training data, choose the type it automatically created, www_hubspot.com for my particular example, and then you can actually see the website content of these pages that I now scraped. And as you can see here, the system was perfectly capable of automatically scraping hubspot.com as a website and generate RAG data, RAG meaning retrieval augmented generation, that it will actually extract as questions are being asked and then pass that on as context to OpenAI. And as you can see here, we scraped only like 3 pages, so we probably only have some, we got 18 training snippets. Typically 1 page turns into anything between 2 to 5 snippets on average. So here it turned into a little bit more. Now, to understand how the chatbot works, I'm going to copy this question. Why do I need a CRM? Then I'm going to go back into my cloudlet. I'm going to turn on VSS here now. And then I'm going to go to the search box and just paste in my question. And what is happening now is that I'm actually synthesizing the process the AI chatbot actually does upon every single question it receives. Because here you can now see that the top items here now are taken from the training material based upon VSS similarity search. And it will try to find the most relevant parts of your training snippets, and then we'll send those training snippets as context to OpenAI, allowing OpenAI to answer your particular question. For our case, it was, why do I need a CRM? Right, and as you can see now, already at this point, it's transmitting tons of like relevant data to OpenAI. And yes, there are a couple of 42 jokes in there, as the following, that basically we are not asking OpenAI to answer questions. We already know the answer to any question it can ask, your users can ask. We're just basically asking it to restructure, use your existing training material as the foundation to answering whatever question the user might have. So that's the 42 joke, if you want. So now let's go through what you can do. First of all, let's say, who is your CEO? Right? Probably it doesn't know that answer. I'm sorry, but I didn't have the current information on HubSpot's CEO. Right. Now, if I go back into History tab here, you will actually see my question. Who is your CEO? This point, I can click off preview here, and I can answer. Our CEO is John Doe, and he is a very nice guy. If I now click the train checkbox, and I click save, this question and answer is moved into my training data here. Now you can see all of a sudden I have a new training data training snippet, which is who is your CEO. However, if you notice carefully here under the vectorized column, it's yellow. That means it's not vectorized. So if I ask the same question again, the AI chatbot's going to give me the exact same answer or something similar. It's not going to know who the CEO is. However, if I now go back to types, every time you have a yellow training snippet, you need to go back to types. You need to click vectorize. And if you're editing existing training snippets that have already been vectorized, you don't need to do this because the system automatically re-vectorizes it upon changes. However, now if I open this again in another window to simulate a new session and I ask who is your CEO, then typically it's going to answer our CEO is John Doe and he's a nice guy, right? So now this is how I add knowledge to the AI chatbot. And of course, for the record, if I now choose this guy, I can also import. I can import PDF files. I can preserve pages in these PDF files. If exact references are extremely important, you typically want to turn on key pages. If you don't have a lot of PDF files, and let's say they only have like, I don't know, 10, 20 pages each, and you have less than 5 PDFs, you might want to instead choose Summarize, which actually creates a summary for every single training snippet by invoking OpenAI, and this increases the vector similarity search, VSS search, during matching between your training data and questions. So this is a little bit of an experimentation thing where you kind of like have to see what works. But basically our go-to solution here is, for the most part, we choose key pages and then we just click here to choose one or more PDFs which we can import. Then you can import images, right? And images will be embedded into the AI chatbot using Markdown. So we can have an AI chatbot that easily displays images. You can import pure text, and sometimes actually it is better to import CSV files this way actually than to import them as CSV files here. But this generic CSV file is just, for the most part, for uploading backups. Why? Because not generic CSV files, sorry, training data is mostly for importing backups. The generic CSV file is different, and it will chop up the CSV file into multiple records, and then it will create one training snippet for each record in this CSV file. So it's more like for specific data, but we have multiple additional means to also deal with CSV files. I need to emphasize, if I now go, for instance, to manage, I go to databases and I create a new SQLite database here. I call it CSV and I edit this particular guy now and I click edit here. Then I can also upload a CSV file or import a CSV file. This will create a new table with the table name being the name of my CSV file, with one column for every single column in my CSV file. I don't have an example CSV file to illustrate this, but once you have that in your database, then transforming, first of all, creating and generating a CRUD API wrapping that particular database after you've imported your CSV file, of course, it's just a simple button click, typically accomplished through create and generator, and then you choose your database and you just click generate down here. And that produces AI functions for you that you can inject into the AI chatbot, resulting, and the AI chatbot is no longer actually an AI chatbot, but actually an AI agent capable of executing functions. And to show you an example of that, if you go to app.inido.io, you come to the AI expert system. I'm going to be logging in with Google here now. And then you see ChatGPT search the web for latest OpenAI news. Now you can see a function invocation, because what's happening here now is that as the foundational system instruction of this particular AI chatbot, we have a function declaration instructing the LLM that, hey man, you can search the web if you want to. Here's how, right? And this particular prompt obviously triggers search the freaking web for me, right? And when it does, the cloudlet itself will actually reach out and use whatever search capabilities it happens to have, which can be integrated into your NetSuite account, your HubSpot account, your Shopify account, or as in for this particular example, just searching the web for latest news related to OpenAI. And here you can now see, now it's further scraping these pages and it's going to end up creating a summary for me or something like that, right? So, and if you don't have the AI expert system, if you click the button in the top corner here, you click front end and you come to a 404 not found bugger, you need to go to manage, you need to go to plugins, and you need to filter on AI-expert system and install the AI expert system. But I've already installed it in this cloudlet, so that would be futile. Another plugin you might want to consider including is OpenAI. This is the plugin that actually gives me the capability to search and scrape websites and etc. And you might want to install the charts plugin. The charts plugin allows the AI chatbot to generate charts based upon data. So we have now gone through manage machine learning, and I've shown you a little bit of the types, I've shown you a little bit of the training data, I've shown you history tab. Those are the three most important ones, but if you need more details about other things, I encourage you to go to the dashboard and watch these videos and or click the question marks and click read more, at which point you're brought onto the documentation for the platform as a whole. And then you're ending up here where you can read and this is extensive documentation. This is more than 100 pages worth of documentation. This is documenting 99% of the system. And also here, you also have an AI chatbot that you can use. How do I create an AI chatbot? Right. And then, of course, the system's going to, this AI chatbot is going to bring you through everything you need to know in order to create your first AI chatbot. Right. So now let's go back to our cloudlet. Let's go to manage, let's go to machine learning, and let's have a look at the different properties you can change as you are configuring your model. Now, the first and most important thing is obviously everything here, and as you can see, this didn't entirely work, so let's try again by turning it into Frank and choosing. At which point now you will see what the AI chatbot does to automatically generate a default AI sales agent type, and that didn't work for some reasons. It doesn't matter. It works on your cloudlet, believe me, when you do it. And basically what it does, it ends up producing a default system message containing a lot of information related to HubSpot, and then it tries its best to basically sell the products that exists at the website you chose, whatever website that happens to be. Then you have the greeting, you have the website. If you fill out this one, the chatbot will automatically re-crawl your website periodically and delete all training material and add new training material. So if you have a website that's constantly being updated, you might want to consider turning on this guy. We actually never do ourselves, to be honest with you, and the reasons why is because if you want to have a truly dynamic AI chatbot, we typically encourage our users to use AI agents instead. Then you can choose the flavor. The flavor is basically a template for the system instruction. You see my system instruction here. Now as I'm changing it to anything, you'll see it change. That's right. I'm not going to save this. I'm going to reopen it again because I don't want to change it. Then you can see your conversation starters, right? If I now go to the AI chatbot here and I refresh it, you see here I have conversation starters. This particular model has 4 conversation starters. If I open it up, configure here now, you can see these 4 conversation starters. I need to emphasize this is markdown. You need to write it as markdown, valid markdown, asterisk basically. What can you do for me? Save. Refresh it, and now it says, what can you do for me? Right, so another conversation starters. The conversation follow-up questions are automatically generated based upon the context, so that's not really possible to influence to a large extent, but the conversation starters are 100% modifiable. So, and then you have the history tab. The history tab keeps all questions and answers for 2 weeks only. I need to emphasize that. That's partially because of, privacy reasons, stuff like that. And also because we can't keep questions forever, because it's going to automatically result in that your cloudlet runs out of hard disk space after like 3 years. Nobody understands why the AI chatbot doesn't work until we realize, oh, golly gosh, he spent all the hard drive, right, on historical requests from like 3 years ago, which nobody really cares about anymore. Right. So that is the history tab. Then you have the training data tab. Then you have the type. And inside of the configuration, you have lots of additional properties that are kind of like crucial. First of all, you go to LLM. You can choose your base chat model. As you can see, this guy is by default GPT-4o, but I can turn it into using O3 Mini. And if I save this guy now and I ask it a question, what model are you running? Hopefully it's going to say O3 Mini, right? Because that is the model it's actually running. But actually this particular model might not actually necessarily know what model it is running, but I guess we'll see that soon. Based on GPT-4 architecture. That's actually technically not true because it's O3 Mini. But it doesn't matter, I changed the underlying LLM that this particular AI chatbot is using. Now, of course, I can delete it if I want to. However, then I gotta like repeat its name as I'm doing it. And now it deletes the AI chatbot. So let's have a look at what more things we can configure. You can also use, completion chat slots. If I use Hugging Face, now it's going to be using Hugging Face instead of OpenAI. If I choose Ollama, it's going to assume that I have Ollama configuration settings in my configuration, allowing me to invoke Ollama, etc., etc. And then you have how many maximum function invocations it can tolerate before it starts rejecting function invocations, which is basically just a safety mechanism to avoid having the cloudlet keep on repeatedly for like an infinite amount of time, like just keep on invoking OpenAI over and over and over again. Maximum requests. Most of these properties are fairly self-explanatory, and if you read the documentation, you will find documentation for every single one of them. Probably most of the things you would want to change are either here or you might want to change the model to O3 Mini or use GPT-4 Mini or something like that. It depends upon your particular use cases, right? So, but unless you understand these properties, please don't edit them. The default values for all of these properties are like what's probably the correct thing for 80% of our clients, right? So then, in addition, so now we've looked at machine learning, we looked at the chatbot wizard. If something goes wrong, you go to MISC, you go to log, and there you can read log items. If you see an error like this line here is an error, then typically that's important, right? And as you can see here, okay, max tokens is not supported with this model. Use max completion tokens instead, blah, 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 etc. Right, so here you can see an actual error, right, that occurred on the AI chatbot. So these are your three most important menu items: log, machine learning, and chatbot wizard in opposite order, I may add. Then you have SQL Studio, where you can query any databases you have connected to your cloudlet. And you can connect any database you wish by going to manage databases and provide a connection string here from MySQL, PostgreSQL, or SQL Server. Give it a name, friendly name, and a connection string here. You have to replace the catalog name with this particular syntax. Why? Because Magic needs to be capable of traversing and retrieving metadata from your database. So we kind of like need this in the connection string in order to be able to retrieve all catalogs that exist in this particular database. Once you have done that, you will see in SQL Studio that you get an additional bugger here, PostgreSQL. You can connect to that guy, and then you can actually execute SQL towards that particular database if you want to. And when you have a database, so I've already installed the Chinook guy here. If you look at its structure, you'll see this is the Chinook database. And it's actually just a plugin for Magic. If you go to Manage, you go to Plugins, and you search for Chinook, you will actually see the entirety of the database. And this plugin, it's actually not a plugin really, it's actually just a database schema that it automatically creates, and then it creates a bunch of example data items for that guy. So if I now go to SQL Studio, click SQL View, choose Chinook, and I write select all from function control space on Mac to get autocomplete. And I think it is Alt space or something on Windows, I can't remember. Then you will see I already now at this point can query my database with SQL and retrieve data or import items or insert items or update items. Any SQL you have, you can execute here. Now that I have a database, I can go to create, I can go to generator, and I can choose this database, and I can, for instance, add search, and I can click generate. What's happening now is that the system will automatically generate CRUD HTTP Web API endpoints for me, allowing me to retrieve data using all 4 CRUD axioms from this particular database for every single table in my system. if we are to illustrate some of the advantages with that, let's go to Manage Machine Learning, and let's create a type, call it the tests, and let's turn it into an AI agent. You need the OpenAI plugin to have the AI agent here. If you don't have the AI agent here, install the OpenAI plugin. And then let's save this guy. And sorry, I did one thing wrong, because we need authorization requirements. Let's put through authorization requirements as a root. This means that only I have access to this, or only root users have access to this. So now if I go to, and why didn't it show this particular, you know what, let's do this the real way. Users and roles, thomas@iro.io. Let's turn my user. Okay, so I'm an admin and I'm an employee. Okay, now I can go back to manage, I can go to machine learning, and I can change the authorization requirements. I can remove root, and I can add employee here. Then I can click save. If I now refresh the AI expert system, you will see all of a sudden now I got a check down or drop down select list here, and now I can choose the test guy. So now I have an base AI agent that has the capabilities to search the web, scrape websites, and all that beautiful stuff. But I want to connect it to my Chinook database. And since I previously generated a CRUD web API wrapping every single table in my Chinook database with all 4 CRUD axioms, then that process is actually ridiculously simple for me, because now I can go to create, I can go to HyperID, click modules, and as you can see here, this Chinook folder was entirely created automatically when I chose the generator to generate a CRUD API. And now I can actually, implement this. So if I find album.get.hl, for instance, which is the simple list album JSON HTTP web API endpoint, you will see it actually returning albums to me by default 25, but I can do a limit and only return 5 albums, for instance. And the point about this is that all of these operations are exposing metadata horizontally throughout the entirety of the layer. So if I now want, I can choose this guy, the flash icon. You see when I hover over a file here, I get some icons. If I click the flash icon and I choose my type being test, I click generate, and I now go to manage, I go to machine learning, and I click training data here, and I filter on my test type here now. You will actually see that I now have a new RAG training data snippet for my particular machine learning type. Now, I can do this individually for one file at a time, or I can choose to recursively add AI functions for every single file I have inside of my Chinook folder. And this is typically more useful. If I now click generate here now, wrap my entirety of my database, with every single hyperlambda file you find inside of this folder is now turned automatically into an AI function. That means that my AI agent can, after this process is done, in theory, execute hundreds of different functions to extract and manipulate data from my database. So now if we wait a few seconds until this process is done, then we need to go to machine learning and vectorize the type. Remember, this creates a shitload of new training data for our type, right? So we're going to end up with 100 training data snippets or something for this particular machine learning type when it's done. So, but let's wait until the process is done, and let's go to machine learning and vectorize that particular model. 107 AI function. If I now go to machine learning, click training data, I choose my test guy here now, you will see, first of all of them are yellow, and I have 108 of them. And if I click edit on any one particular one of them, you will see that basically it's a function declaration associated with the machine learning type. So now when I go back to my type, I click vectorize on this particular type, and this process is done. It will typically require maybe a minute or something. Then when this process is done, I actually have embeddings generated for every single AI function that exists in the system, allowing me to use natural language, which will be transpiled into function invocations by the LLM, executed as functions by the cloudlet, extracting data from your database. So basically now I've connected my AI agent to every single table for every single CRUD verb, in addition to aggregates, group by, count by, distinct keyword density search, etc., etc. And all of those functions automatically comes for free out of the AI agent without me having to actually write a single line of code. I need to emphasize, so far I haven't written a single line of code, right? So now if I go to the AI expert system and I choose my test guy here now and I write list all functions, you will see that basically the system has 112 different functions it can do. Scraping websites, doing all for CRUD operations towards, sorry, my cat's going berserk, etc., etc. So now I can tell it further to, okay, search for an album named Night something. We gotta wait until it's done here. So now you will see how an AI function invocation actually works from the AI agent or the AI expert system's point of view, because now it is actually going to look for an album that contains the word night. Let's see what it comes up with. Hopefully it's going to find something. And as you can see, Heart of the Night, Living After Midnight, The Last Night of the Proms, Mendelssohn, A Midsummer Night's Dream. And I need to emphasize that, this isn't AI-generated code. I mean, so far there are 0 lines of AI-generated code. Because basically what this does, and you have to go to machine learning and click the history tab to appreciate what the LLM is actually doing here now. And look at this first guy, you see square bracket 1. Search for an album named Night something. Okay, I'm going to search for albums containing the word night using the album distinct keyword search function. Okay, so now it's using the album distinct keyword search function to return albums who contains the word night, and it's going to limit the result to 10 maximally. And if we now go to create and go to HyperID and we expand modules and we expand Chinook and we find album search.get, we can actually reproduce what the LLM is doing here by night being our query, limit being 10. And now it's going to return the exact same queries that you see here, right? Or these exact same albums. See 4 albums here. So basically what is happening is basically that we are capable of taking an LLM, connecting it with functions, using very little coding, if any coding at all. Every now and then we have to do some coding, I need to emphasize, but most of the times this is 100% automatic, right? And then that LLM all of a sudden becomes capable of executing functions. And we can integrate this with NetSuite, we can integrate it with HubSpot, we can integrate it with Shopify, we can integrate it with Microsoft 365, CRM, whatever. We can integrate it with anything. As long as we have access to either your database or an API, we can integrate it. Now, and that brings me to the difference between a professional plan and an enterprise plan. Because the most important difference between a professional plan and an enterprise plan is the level of support we are providing to you. If all you want to have is an AI chatbot, cool, choose the professional plan. If you want to have complex integrations and you can do them yourself, also choose the professional plan. If we need to sit and code for you for 5 to 20 hours or something to solve your particular problems, and you need complex integrations and back and forth and multiple iterations going back and forth and QA testing, etc., you are going to need the enterprise plan. Why? Because we're basically charging for time, right? So the amount of time we need to spend to onboard you such that you can solve your problems or we can solve them by basically being your software development AI department or something like that, defines which plan you will actually need in order for us to be able to deliver this cloudlet for you. And there are some memory constraints and some differences related to that, etc., etc. But typically, the difference between a professional plan and an enterprise plan is the amount of customizations required to bring you up to speed and to onboard. So now we've gone through the basics of how to create a chatbot. We've gone through how to add training data to that particular chatbot, to fine tune it, to QA test it. We've gone through how you as a partner of Ainiro can resell AI chatbots, etc., etc. So with the professional plan, you get 10 AI chatbots, but realize default is already taken, so you get 9 for all practical concerns. You get 9 AI chatbots in a professional plan. In an enterprise plan, you get 50. Yet again, you have defaults, you get 49 machine learning types. So then you have the dashboard where you can see some basic KPIs. You have an integrated AI chatbot here. You can ask for help. Hello, right? Which is also connected to the Magic documentation, so it can actually give you support related to Magic. You have the question mark, which is context sensitive, so it shows me the basic information of the particular component I'm currently on, regardless of what component that is. I can click the read more button to get to the documentation. I showed you how to use the chatbot wizard, showed you a little bit about HyperID, I showed you a little bit about SQL Studio, I showed you a little bit about the generator, and then I showed you how machine learning works, and then I showed you the log parts of the system. I cannot click configuration because that implies you're going to be seeing sensitive information and API keys and stuff like that. So I cannot click this guy. But if you click configuration, you basically come to a JSON configuration file, which you can edit as you see fit, allowing you to configure stuff such as SMTP servers, if you need the AI chatbot to send emails, etc., etc. So, and that's basically it. This is what's in the box, right? Now I need to emphasize that regardless of what problem you have, we can solve it. I mean, I typically say this in meetings. You want to go to interstellar space and travel to the closest star that is in proximity to Earth? Okay, cool. We'll bring you there. We just need like $1 trillion, 250 years, and access to the 5,000 smartest scientists on the planet for a period of 300 years, and we'll get you there. Right, and that actually illustrates our process because we can do everything, but it's a matter of price, right? If all you want to have is a basic Shopify integration, we can probably help you out with that. To import products from Shopify and have a customer service AI chatbots that integrated with Shopify and answer questions related to your product portfolio, whatever it happens to be, from Shopify that funnels users into your existing purchase pages, maybe order tracking, some tiny small amounts of integrations like that. And typically we won't charge you the full enterprise experience. But if you want to have complex integrations and we need to sit down and code for you for like hours, or you are not capable of by yourself managing your own cloudlet and we need to do the job for you, then it's the enterprise plan. Otherwise it's the professional plan. Thank you for watching and have a nice day.